Greetings, dear viewers. I'm George from Ireland. So here I am at Little Venice in London. You can see a bit of the Grand Union Canal behind me, and you can see it's covered in all these fallen leaves, except where the water is most active. Not sure where it's spurting up from there. And you can see various canal boats on either side going back. So the canal's dead straight as far as the eye can see. Then trees obscure it. These canal boats, they're long and they're narrow. So 5 or 6 meters long, about 1.5 meters across. I wouldn't be able to stand up properly at them, even at the highest point right in the middle. So people can live on them. People use them as canal boats. So this area is known as Little Venice. Ooh, and there's a boat passing underneath. I'm not sure you can see it back there. Never mind, because the tunnel goes underneath here for the canal boats to go through. We'll see one coming through on the other side in a minute. Anyway, so this was opened in 1916. This area, sorry, 1816. The area is Little Venice, as in after Venice in Italy, because of the canal. When I first saw it on the map, I thought it was something to do with Italians living around here, but no, it's not that at all. And by the way, the canal boats go very slowly. There you see it coming through. The noise is from a street cleaning vehicle, unfortunately. Oh God, carrying loads of rubbish, not the most gorgeous one. And that's a very wide one. And you can see there's almost no clearance on either side. I think they can only go one at a time through this one in each direction, obviously. Whereas otherwise, you can see they can go 4 abreast, I suppose, but they tend to just go 1 abreast, or 1 in either direction. And you can get a canal boat tour of London. It obviously is going at a very sedate pace. You don't see very, very many central sites. They're very shallow. The canal is very shallow. Even if it were to fall in, you might find yourself standing and you can recover all your goods. Though you can't see the bottom because the water's quite dark. Anyway, what else about this? So it's the time of the Industrial Revolution. They found it's a great way to move goods. The roads were in very poor repair, very bockety. They did improve them with turnpike trusts through the 18th century. But if you had heavy goods, fragile goods, there's a much safer way to transport them. Not good for things that were perishable because they go so slowly, mainly going through the locks. Going to open and close the locks to raise and lower the water level, especially because obviously water won't flow uphill, but to get your boat going uphill, as it were. So there we go. So this is a wide area, a turning point with a little island in the middle. You can see a weeping willow on it. Forgot what the island's called. That's why it's Little Venice. So the Grand Union Canal and the Regent's Canal meet here. And then there's a Paddington arm of it going off there towards Paddington Station. We'll see then the railway started. So it was coming into London from the west, or more particularly the northwest, and this became an area with lots of wharves and warehouses behind Paddington Station. But when the train was invented in 1825 by what's his name, George Stephenson, then obviously the canals went into decline, and by 1950s almost be entirely abandoned. There was junk in them. They were fetid. They were scarcely flowing. There was stagnant water. There was so much pollution in them that they became dead, as in fish didn't swim in them, as did many rivers. So they were just abandoned. There were so many derelict buildings, very dilapidated. But in the late 20th century, they began to repair them, reopen them, and then people go up and down them for pleasure, and even live on the houseboats. But these things cost about £50,000, one of these canal boats to live on. But you have to pay for your mooring. It takes quite some maintenance. You have to be hooked up to electricity, water, things like that, or loading and unloading things, including your waste matter. So these people over here, they're queuing for a canal boat tour. So I've never been on one, actually. I'd rather like to go. And there's a towpath. You can walk up and down them. So sometimes, because these things were going so slowly, I don't think they couldn't have sails because you're going through these very low tunnels. They'd have a horse on the towpath pulling them along. Sometimes the water was so shallow they'd actually have the horse in the water, because of course it doesn't take very much force to move one of these, because the water is taking most of the weight. So this guy is moving whatever contraption for mowing a lawn or something. There you go. An idea of what Little Venice is like. So that area behind me, that's called Maida Vale. I don't know, there's not much of a valley in Maida Vale. And this area on this side is called Paddington, as in where Paddington Station was built. The station takes its name from the area, not the other way around. You may know the story about Paddington Green, and there's a well-known churchyard there. How about this? An information centre on Little Venice, and how gorgeous it is. So people really do decorate these canal boats. This will be a very large one. And they often have the flower pots on the roof. So, how quaint, charming, and Elysian it is. Okay, and You can see some of them over there. I don't know people actually living on these ones. Then you see little river boats beside the river at, where is it? At Chelsea, a lot of them. And this is where you can get a river tour, which I might do some point. Perhaps film as I'm going by. So this area is known as Little Venice. Who gave it the name Little Venice? Some people claimed it was Lord Byron, the well-known poet, although there are other claims, was it Lord Kinross or Robert Browning, the poet laureate, who lived hard by. And he was sort of a late 20th century chap, whereas, what's his name, Lord Byron, if memory serves, died in 1832 at Messalonghi, of course, fighting for Hellenic independence. Now, what else would I point out to about these canal boats and all that? And it goes on to Camden Lock. Lock is in not lock the door, but lock on the river, where the river level is raised and lowered. There's no lavatorium on these, but they're not very long journeys. Waterways. What a way to enjoy yourself. That's called a pun, by the way. Okay, what else am I going to point out about this? Yeah, so some famous people have lived here. It's mostly Regency architecture, as in the Prince Regent, the future George IV. He ruled from 1788 to 1820 as regent, because his father suffered this transient derangement of mind, probably brought on by porphyria, his father being George III. There's a theory it was by the chemical in the wigs that he wore. And then when he was treated by Dr. Willis, having to work on a farm, he was not exempted because of his regal status, George III. He was no longer wearing his wig and the chemicals were no longer affecting him. But why was he only struck mad about the age of 50? Well, perhaps it was cumulative. They had to build up to sufficient level that it caused him this mental delinquency. But there are others who say that's not quite the truth. This is sort of educated guesswork from medical historians. But anyway, Prince Regent, he gives his name to this type of architecture, this white stuccoed splendor, such you'll see it on top of these houses over here. You'll often get it on the very front of the house or the ground floor of the house, not everywhere, because it's just too expensive. And then on a bright day, it'll be refulgent around here because it'll be reflecting off all that. So it's very low rise, which is quite pleasing. Anyway, houses here would set you back a pretty penny. So that's perhaps enough from Regent's Canal, from the Little Venice area for the moment. Farewell.